Welcome to Fusion Friday. Today, I'm going to show you how to build a lower third. Let's do it. Let's jump in. All right, here we are in DaVinci Resolve. First thing we're going to need is a new Fusion composition because we're going to build this particular lower third. So to do that, let's build a new comp. So new Fusion composition, my lower third. Drag that composition to the timeline. Make sure your playhead's over the top and click the Fusion button. Welcome to Fusion. All right, so first let's get our text. And for this lower third, this particular one, we're going to have 2 lines of text. And so I'm going to take 2 lines of text, I'm going to merge together, and I'm going to put this in viewer number 1, the left-hand viewer. If you don't have both viewers, you can go up to the top, click the little icon, boop, 2 viewers. All right, text number 1, I'm going to call this, I'm just going to call this line number 1. And for this one, I'm going to say is line number 2. And so right now they're sitting directly on top of each other, not so good. So take number 2, we're going to layout and we're going to bring that down. Perfect. And I also want to left align these. This makes it a little easier for a few things, but I'm going to left align both of them. Boom, looking great. Except they don't. The font is terrible. And it's not so much the font, it's the fact that they're both identical to each other. And what you want to do is choose a font that has like bolds and thins and lights and some contrast between it. Open Sans does. So for the top line, I can put it at maybe extra bold. And for the second, I can change that to maybe, let's see, maybe light looks pretty good. And might even increase the tracking a bit on that. So maybe something like that. Perfect. Because what I want is that text to have a bit of contrast between it. So, you know, it's not just 2 lines of text, right? We've got to make it visually interesting. All right, so text is looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and get a transform tab or a transform node. That allowed me to move it and scale it on the screen. And speaking of screen, we'll bring down a background, drag that to our media out, take our transform node onto our background, get the merge. Now we're good. All right, single viewer. And let's go ahead and select our transform. Just kind of bring it down towards the lower corner. Now, you do want to be careful that you don't get too low, right? Depending on your delivery, most of the web's not too bad, but if you want to know where the safe lines are, you can hit Command G. And as long as you're inside this inner box, you're good to go, right? So this inner box is titles, typically subtitles, monitor line, right? To make sure that you don't wrap off the edge. And then of course you have your center guides, but Command G to show them, get rid of them. Now we've got our text. Next, let's animate it. All right, for animating our text, we have a lot of options. I'm just going to talk about 2 today. The first one being very basic, which is the write on property. And so the text node has a write on property you can use. And so if I'm at, let's go to frame 0, and I set the write on to 0 and keyframe it. And then I can go to frame 36 and write on all the way and do the same thing for text number 2. So at frame 36, the write on is at 1, and then at frame 0, it's at 0. Boop. And reduce our playback range. This helps quite a bit when you're doing animations, is just play the area that you're currently working on. So start, end. All right, here we go. And we play. And it comes on and it's kind of choppy and it kind of sucks. And so let's reset those. So pick text 2, double click on write on, pick text 1, double click on write on, gets rid of those animations. Let me show you an easy way to bring these on, and we'll even fade them in a little bit. Drag a rectangle, bring it down and connect it to our little merge here. And this rectangle, anything that's inside of it is visible, right? And so I can use that to create that effect of having those characters come onto the screen. So first thing I want to do is get my rectangle so it covers just my text. I don't need it to be huge. Like that. Looks pretty good. 0.25, something like that. Great. Center X. Looks like I can go to 0.3. All right, so at frame 36, I want this rectangle to be right here where it is. So I'll keyframe that position. And then at frame 0, I want to back the rectangle off so that we can no longer see the text. Great. Now when I play, I get this, it's a little smoother, the text coming on, still a little choppy, but we can fix that. Select the rectangle, go to our spline editor, displacement, that's the movement across. Make this so I can fit all these guys on, select them, F will smooth them out. T will give you this ease in and ease out curve, so you can change this again to your liking. I'm going to leave it kind of default for now. But now when I play, I do get this little smoother movement on the rectangle. And then the last thing I can do, and I'll pause it right here. Let's zoom into this a bit. Maybe back up a couple of frames. Something like that. All right. So it's still this very sharp line. And so what I can do is take my rectangle. If I give it a bit of a soft edge, right, you can see now I get this leading fade to my text, right? So it starts to sort of fade up across the text. I'll play that a little bit. There we go. So not bad. Again, it's all going to come down to taste of what you're trying to build and how you want to build it. All right, so we've got our text coming on. We want the text to come off. Let's go to the end of our composition, and we want this to come off, say, half a second, right? So second and a half to render it on, but when it's going off screen, we're going to get rid of it pretty fast. So we're going to back up 12 frames from this. So we'll go to 107, select my rectangle, the center X, center Y, again, create a keyframe, and then we'll move all the way to the end of our composition. And the same thing, we're just going to back that mask up on the X-axis till we can no longer see the text. And now, when we play this out all the way, text is on, it's on the screen for 2 seconds, and then boom, quickly comes off. Perfect. All right, text is done, animation is done. Next, let's add the little graphic, shall we? All right, I'm gonna make some room, move these over so we can start drawing our little graphic, and gonna move to like frame 40 or something, just so we, can see everything that's supposed to be up there. Let's bring a background down. This will be the color, and you can pick whatever color you want for this little graphic. And we're going to use this polygon tool to create the line that we're going to animate on and off. So I'm going to drag my little poly line there and connect this to our other merge. You really should name all these nodes so that you know what they are. Will come in helpful for bigger comps, but for this small one, easy enough to keep track of. All right, let's go ahead and draw. So maybe here, do a little line, maybe go up. And if you hold the shift key, that'll help you get straight line. Maybe right there, down here, and here. All right, now if I click off, you won't be able to see the polyline. So we need to bring up the border width from 0 to some decent size. And I'm going to oversize it for a minute so I can show you some things. So right now you can see it's rounded, which is fine if that's what you want. If you want square, boom, 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 you want to change the border style. So one of them is sort of how the corners go, and then the end cap like so, right? And so now I've got my little graphic, and maybe I need to bring this line down so I can just select it, and then if I bring this, whoop, Maybe something like that. All right. Perfect. There we go. All right. So now I've got my graphic, and this one is pretty easy to animate as well. Let's bring that border width down. Maybe something like that. That looks pretty good. Okay. So to animate this, we have two properties. We have a length property, and we have a position property. And so we're going to use both of these as part of this animation. So again, at frame 0, I want no length. But you can see if I bring the length property to 0, I still have this goofy little block. Will it matter? Not really if your animation is starting at frame 0 anyway. It probably is not going to be too much of an issue. If you have a delay before you're starting to draw this and you don't want to see that, the easiest thing to do is come to your merge node where this polygon is coming in, and we're just going to take the blend mode to 0 and we're going to keyframe it. And then at frame number 1, or whatever frame your animation line drawing would start, you would bring that blend up to a 1, right? And so the little artifact, as it were, that's there is not really an issue. Our animation is starting right off the bat, so it's fine. So the polygon, frame 0, not there. We'll say maybe at 36 to keep it the same as the other one. We'll take the length and bring it all the way out. Take the spline tool. Let's, we don't need the rectangle. We only want the polygon. Did I not keyframe? Ah, didn't keyframe it. Let's try that again. Frame 36, keyframe, length of 1. Frame 0, length of 0. Now we have keyframe. Got to make sure you click the keyframe button. All right, so now onto the spline editor. Polygon, I have the length. That's the only one I'm worried about. And so I'm going to F, smooth that in a little bit. So maybe something like that. You can even overshoot and come back for the length, but that's good. All right, little spline editor. Now when I play, you can see it slows down as it comes, kind of eases into the bottom. Perfect, looks great. All right, let's go to frame 107. This is where we're going to start our removal of this line. And so instead of using length, which we have at 1, we're gonna start manipulating the position. So at 107, keyframe on position of 0, go to the end of our comp position at 1. Again, since this comp basically ends at this, I'm not worried about the little artifact. Same thing, come to the spline. I can take the position, click this little button so that they all fit. Maybe I want both of these. I'll just flatten them both out a little smoother. And now when I play, it's on for 2 seconds and then boom, everything goes off, right? So at this point, we are basically done with the design of the lower third. The next question is, well, how do you use it? So if I go back to the edit page, I say, well, I want to put this on something. So I'm going to move this up 1. So it's on video track 2. Now I have some backgrounds. I'm going to pick this background here. Delete that. If I start playing this, you can see that I don't see my background, right? All I'm going to see is the lower third. That's not what we want. All right. Select it, go back into Fusion. This background that we were using, we just need to change the alpha, drag it all the way down. Now when I come back out, I can see what's underneath and I've got my lower third. And that's as much as you need to do to create a basic lower third that you can use in your project. Now, you might need at times to change the duration of the composition itself, but not necessarily the opening or ending animations. So right now, this is 1.5 seconds to draw on, 0.5 seconds to draw off, right? And so that's 2 seconds, which means the lower third is sitting on the screen for 3 seconds. Well, if I need it to sit on the screen for 2 seconds or maybe 8 seconds, I can change that time between them really easy. And let me show you that real fast. So again, make sure the comp selected, playheads over our comp. Let's jump back into Fusion. And the last thing we're gonna do is allow this composition to be stretched out. So select my last merge, because I want to place a node between this merge and media out. So I'm going to select this, shift space, and I'm going to look for a node called keyframe stretcher. And what this says is between this frame, the start frame, and this frame, the end frame, you can add or stretch out this composition. So for us, our last keyframe is on frame 36 in the opening. And then we can go all the way up to 107 because that's when our out begins, right? And to show you what that ends up with is now draws on, comes in, draws off, looks great. Even if I change the length of this, so I'm going to drag this out for another 2 seconds. So actually I'll just do this. I'll change this to 7 seconds, right? So now I've got a 7-second comp. So it'll draw on, it'll just hold longer, and now it will drop off, right? And so that keyframe stretcher allows me to change the duration between a pair of keyframes, and I can grow it or shrink it. All right, that's it. We've created a basic lower third in Fusion. Hope you found it helpful. Let me know in the comments below if some other ideas that you're interested in. And I'll see you next Friday for another tutorial. Later.